Wired. Unplugged.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wired Unplugged, episode 35. It's me, Jake Kulkowski, and Gary Marshall.
I'm here too, once again. Standing in for Jake. Not
What?
Jake, Aaron.
Yeah, well, you're standing in for me. You're still.
I'm standing in for you.
You're still propping me up. I've been
Aaron.
in. Well, last week's podcast, I was in some hotel. So you really helped add a bit of cohesiveness to that, to be honest. And now I'm home.
I wouldn't call anything about last week's show cohesive. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, we did go down a lot of tangents, didn't we? To be honest, this week we've got.
Steady.
Well, we've got quite a lot to go through this week. To be honest, we've got quite a fair bit of propaganda and quite a fair bit of news. But there's always topics afoot. But we'll be easy breezy on it. But tell you what, it's good to be back on the office.
It's good to see you in a familiar environment. There's a little bit of like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego about you, Jake, which is kind of like...
Yeah, mentally checked out, physically,
every
everywhere.
time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here I am.
Sat down and
I'm
turned
back in
that
my
camera
office.
on. It was like, what's going to be behind him? You know what I mean? You were playing that. You know how people got at the beginning of the pandemic? They were doing that thing where they were putting like different backgrounds behind them to make Zoom calls more exciting.
Yeah. I just literally traveled to different countries to make the Zoom calls.
You just literally did that real life.
Yeah.
It was a little bit fun, I must admit. Never quite knowing exactly where. Oh, he's in a Starbucks this time. Oh, he's in a hotel. It could have been anywhere. But
yeah.
But it's good to see you back home.
Wouldn't it be really funny if I didn't actually leave like my local area? I just rented hotel rooms to look exotic. But no, we're official.
I love that.
And do you want? I'll tell you what. We'll do the propaganda segment, and then we'll start with some information about how official we are, how verified we are. I'm going to roll the jingle first because it's a damn good jingle, and it'd be a shame to waste it. To be honest, let's go.
Wired propaganda.
Oh yes, it's wired propaganda.
I mean, it's no duck. That's all I can say. But,
it certainly isn't a duck, to be honest. But I'll tell you what, we made it work, didn't we? Guitar's fine.
We did, and I don't know if we actually had. This is a little behind the curtains for the viewers and listeners at home. Last week obviously we didn't have any of the jingles. And then we kind of mockingly halfway through the show said that we should put ducks in because that would be funny. Yeah. And then I walked out the booth and Curtis was editing, and he was like, "Really, ducks?" I was like, "Yeah, you're doing it. You're putting the ducks in."
He questioned it. Yeah.
He questioned, and we went back and forth, but he eventually put them in because he knows what's good for him.
He understood the conceptual genius.
He got the report in, and. We actually had to turn down the ducks. The initial ducks were too loud and too shocking. I know that's a weird sentence to say.
Yeah,
I'll have to send you the video. I don't think I did, but the first edits of the teaser clips that he sent over, the ducks coming in between the segments were so loud and so short and so sharp that they were basically jump scares. It was like an accidental pre-Halloween duck. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah, but basically so. A little bit behind the scenes there. We live in the world where you can have an hour-long discussion about the loudness and volume of ducks on a podcast. So there you go.
Ducks don't compromise. Everybody knows that. That's what they're known for.
Look at me now, Mum. You wondered where I'd be. Anyway,
well, it worked out pretty well for us because we've got some interesting news about just how official our status is, haven't we?
We do. Do we want to front load, or should we save that for the banger?
Well, I think we better because I think I've made it a bit too obvious.
You have done. So
sorry, I've ruined it. Yeah.
We had a bit of a chat with some important social type people, and no, this isn't Elon. This is nothing related to him buying a Twitter account. We didn't hit him up and go, "Oi, Musk," while we were at it.
Yeah.
But we did go out and get but pretty much every goddamn social account that we own under the sun verified, including Jake.
Yeah.
The one that you are in charge of. The very own Wired Unplugged podcast is now officially verified. We're 100% real. We're a real boy. We're a real podcast, and we're a real Twitter account.
Haha, every other podcast.
Yeah, Yeah, you don't always get that verification. It's a little bit of a pain to get. So we had to do a little bit of sweet talking. But once we sent over the globe-trotting credentials of Jake, they were like, you know what, we have to.
I've seen him in our local Starbucks. Yeah, yeah.
Wasn't he just in Canada? Oh, well, we better give him a check mark.
Yeah,
you know, that's basically how
it's
went
like
down.
a passport stamp. No,
Exactly.
that's really, really great, and I think it's interesting how so many verified ticks are given to, like, I don't know, random people, but not like hardworking companies that literally put out games for a living and have a lot of staff in their employ, and it's like they're not verified enough. But if you're like, I don't know, you interned at the BBC for 3 months, you can get a verified ticket instantly.
It's one of those, like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. To a certain extent, you know what I mean? Even within like you know, you probably know a lot, or what probably you know a lot of content creator sides, and there's been many times where, like, I know content creators that, like, I've got partnered on X platform, but it's I don't really do anything on it. It's just because I kind of know X or Y, and sometimes it is just that you know, it's, you know, someone and they go, yeah, well, I'll do this, and you go, all right, sick.
It's crazy, isn't it?
But in this account, it's because the Unplugged podcast is the best video game podcast on the planet, and or definitely within this recording booth anyway.
And every single hotel room I've ever visited.
Every single hotel room you've ever been in.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
now it's got a verified official tick to look all nice and shiny and pretty. We should make this a date, Jake. We should make this a date. We should make a note of this in the diary that every year we celebrate Verification Day.
Verification Day. So that's a very exciting, October the 26th, by the way, everybody. 26th. And if you are listening, because there's quite a lot of you that listen, and you don't use Twitter very much, or you don't know that we're on Twitter, because normally, like, for the first, I don't know, half of these, well, no, actually, for like the first 30 episodes, we were going.
There wasn't a social.
There wasn't. There was Wired P for production and podcast and all the other P words. But please behave. And Wired Unplugged.
Philanthropy.
Yeah, exactly. And now Wired Unplugged.
Pedestal.
Then
I'm just going to shout the words beginning with P now intermittently for the rest of the show.
If you'd like to find us on Twitter, though, it's just simply Wired Unplugged, because we've got that handle too. We don't have to be like Wired Unplugged _1 or shit like that. So that's pretty
it actually put me down a bit of a loophole. Again, a bit of a tangent. You're used to them by now. Sorry, folks. We're going away to Germany tomorrow. I say tomorrow at like 2:00 tomorrow morning, which is not a time that anybody should be up unless you haven't gone to bed yet.
Yeah.
And we were getting business cards made, and the initial business cards that we put together had, you know, my business email and my, you know, social handles and whatnot on it. And I'd submitted them and given the wrong Twitter handle. You know how sometimes you forget that your Twitter handle isn't what you think it is?
Yeah. Well,
yeah. I mean, you're the only joke ever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But mine, I forgot that I didn't actually own the handle that I wanted. I had to do one of those weird, like, oh, you put a word in front of it because someone else had claimed the original.
Yeah.
So I went and kind of was like, oh, yeah, damn, okay, well, I'll get that redesigned and send that off. And in the meantime, I was like, I'm going to go check out, actually. I'm going to go see what that account's up to, because I haven't actually looked at it since I originally created my account like 6-7 years ago, you know, whatever. And yeah, they're still there. They still haven't done anything. And their bio leads to another account that they own, which then leads to another account which is suspended and have not posted anything for like 6 and I don't know. So that led me down a big rabbit hole. I was like, you know what? I'd quite like to actually own that handle. I'm going to send a follow-up and be like, oi.
Well, contrary to popular belief, there are other Jakes, actually.
I refuse to believe it. I've literally never met one.
Well, I went to look at, like, Jake on Twitter, and it's just some, like, fucking Australian tech bro CEO guy. He's probably worth a lot of money, so I can't buy him out. But I could maybe I should just demand. I'll say, look, bub. You know what I mean?
Do you reckon there's a thing in there? Do you reckon there's a gimmick in there? Like the people that, as soon as a new social platform emerges, like immediately just rush and get like all of the default names, get all of the default company names. You know what I mean? And just squat on them just on the off chance. Just on the off chance that this one goes big, or Elon Musk goes, you know what, I'm going to buy that, or Kanye goes, you know what, I'm going to buy that, or
yeah, exactly,
whatever.
It happens to like even games when people will let's say, you know, it doesn't exist yet, but like if somebody had like Resident Evil 9 You know what I mean, or whatever. But yeah, I try to do that on every video game I play. I always try and go for one word, and we've gone through this a little bit before. Some of it is controversial, but most of the time I go for like a nice one-word username. I try and go for like a nice simple word, like like my place. Like,
are we about to lose ads revenue on this one again?
I'll give you an insight into my
Come on, then.
my Pokemon Unite username is simply Underwhelm. There we go. See, that's a safe one.
That. And the best part is that if you play well, your teammates will be overwhelmed.
So I basically set the bar.
You're setting the bar.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
setting the bar so low that you physically. And if they go, you know what, mate, you suck. Why were you jungling like so badly? You can be like,
I just gesture broadly.
Just
Underwhelmed. I'm called Underwhelmed, mate. What do you expect?
What did you expect?
Grow up. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Pokemon Unite comp scene in shambles. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
anyway,
verification has happened, and now we can get into the actual propaganda, because there is actually quite a lot going on in the White House, and you did allude to a little Germany trip there, but there's many more things. So what's going on?
There is. So well, we announced yesterday. I say yesterday. It's Wednesday today. So we announced on Tuesday. For those of you watching when this actually drops on Friday, I'll never get used to the time traveling, man. I ain't no doctor. I can't be dealing with this.
It's whack, actually. But,
it is. It's bonkers. We announced that good old Thomas Salah, Mr. Bird Father himself.
Very disappointed when he wasn't the Prime Minister, by the way.
Yeah. But you know what? There was a push. There was a straight up push. But when I walked, can we do attention thing? Well, that was such a weird show last week, where I walked into the booth to record the show with you last week. And I walked in about like 10:30, had my coffee, had my bottle of water, sat down. I knew my place in the world, right? I knew my place in the world. And I walked out after recording, and as soon as I walked out, they were like, oh, by the way, we ordered pizza. We don't often have pizza in the office, right? Because one of the lads is his stomach doesn't agree with it. So we tend not to order big amounts of something that somebody can't eat, because that would kind of suck, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't in. So I walked out, and there was just this unfamiliar sight of just like mountains of pizza. And I was like, this is amazing. And then looked at the TV and was like, oh, yeah. And Liz Truss is literally gone, and Boris wants to come back. And I was like the world was so different to when I had walked into the booth at the beginning of that show.
Just like the plot of the Silent Hill film adaptation.
Yeah. Oh,
and we talked about it. That's why we did it.
We did.
And so Thomas Salah, unfortunately, in this reality, it wasn't a Prime Minister. But what's he been up to in the real world?
But later on God, I can't remember the dates now. Is it November, I believe, or it might even be Friday? Can you fact check for me, Jake? I've got 1,000,001 dates flying around in my brain at the moment, and they're all colliding with each other.
Yeah.
Is a show called The Mix, which is a big old proprietary announcement of indie games and new trailers and game announcements and footage and developer walkthroughs and so on and so forth.
The Mix should be, if you're listening to this podcast on a day of release, the Mix should
today,
start.
Right?
It started yesterday, the 27th, and it runs through, I think, and there's a bit of interactive elements to it, so there's games you can play, kind of like Steam Next Fest and things like that, and it'll be available throughout this Halloween weekend. And
we'll put a link to it in the description. We'll put a link to the website, because there is like a online component where you can go and walk around and look at online booths and do one and so forth.
Yeah, it's got a cool virtual element. So the Mix, in case people just don't know what it is, it like started like 10 years ago with IGN, believe it or not.
Wow.
And it stands for like the Media Indie Exchange, and basically it was supposed to be an in-person event originally, just for indie developers to showcase their games to top tier journalists, and it was like one of the world's first indie focused events. But now, with the way that things have changed, a lot of just regular gamers would like to watch, and a lot of people follow the journey of video game developers on like Twitter and things like that. Like, well, everyone loves Thomas Salah's Twitter account, where he posts all sorts of goodies and stuff. But Thomas in the Mix, what's happening there?
So Thomas is obviously earlier on this year we announced Bulwark, Falconeer Chronicles, which is this kind of actual sequel, but more of a spiritual successor to the Falconeer, the game that he released as an Xbox Series X/S launch title way back a couple of years ago. The idea is that this one, rather than being a big old aerial combat kind of open world ocean Kevin Costner in Star Wars, but without Kevin Costner because he wouldn't return our phone calls. Rather than being that, this one's actually more of a city builder. It's a resource generator. It's a kind of painting a landscape with big old environmental buildings and civilizations and stack them all up and then establish routes between them and gather different materials from different areas and then fortify them and defend.
Yes.
And there's a lot of man management in there too, going between different staffings and so on and so forth. It's a very different game set in the same universe, but regardless, we announced it in a very Tomasala way, which is big, epic sounding score, big sweeping visuals, using the same engine, using the same kind of weird, no actual textures, but mathematical wizardry to generate visuals that Thomas had used with the Falconeer. Very arresting visuals, very captivating trailer, but not actually much of an explanation as to what the game is or what you do. And you would almost be forgiven if you watched it without any context for going, oh yeah, that's a Falconeer game, right? Which it obviously isn't. So as part of this mix, one of the things that they like to do, as well as just announcing trailers and kind of games and showing off their wares, is they'll bring developers on and have them kind of talk through things and give discussions and talks and so on and so forth. And Thomas is going to be there. I believe his slot is actually Friday, though it might also have been yesterday. Either way, if it was yesterday, it'll be up on the socials. Go have a look for it.
Yeah, there'll be a VOD available.
There'll be a VOD of it somewhere. He's doing a big old talk through of Bulwark, so people will for the first time be able to kind of get a glimpse into what the game and play loop is, what you actually do. He'll be able to talk, he'll be talking about the actual world of it, the state of that universe following the events of the Falconeer, where Bulwark picks up, and what players can expect over the coming, next X amount of time before launch to, share more. So very excited for that, because obviously, we played quite a bit of Bulwark, we've known about it for a little while now, and it's going to be it will actually be a Polaris. Kind of crimping on that news a little bit. Those of you in Germany coming out to come see us, you'll be able to come and meet Thomas, and come play the game itself. So he'll be there. The game will be there. If you are intrigued and you are in Hamburg, that is a very niche Venn diagram. But swing on by, come get your hands on the game. But yeah, it's gonna be neat. I'm really excited to see what people's reaction to the game is going to be, because even within the kind of city builder genre, it is so very different.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah,
everything else out there.
Yeah, it really is. That's what's so captivating about it for me, anyway. It just looks so different and nice, and I played, one of my favorite games I played over the last few years was this game that was 79p, or I don't know, $1 or something like that. What was it called? Islanders, or just Islands? And it was literally just a game where you had these blank islands, and then you got these random cards, and you started putting it down, and it was like a city builder, but it was card based. And then another game that was I'm sure completely coincidental, just a few months later came out, called Dorf Romantic, which was exactly the same thing, and it had a kind of but both of these games had I guess a tabletop element, because it looked like card game, right? But they had no purpose other than you just build it and it looks really nice. And it looked like that when I'm looking at the Bulwark stuff. I'm just oh my gosh, it looks a lot more like a really cool souped up level editor of those old PlayStation games where you could map edit.
Honestly, and there's so much of that in there, where obviously that there is an objective, there is a story, that there is kind of a point to the game. But the actual general moment to moment, when you're extending out and kind of trying to expand your kind of civilization outwards, is quite literally just this. I'm going from resource A back to my hub world. I need to establish a route here, which means I've got to build an outpost on this outcrop and then get a seedling here and get this port up. And you set those up and then go through and actually place them down. Yeah, and that's the word, it's this weird Thomas maths wizardry that he does, but it just kind of reads the geometry and then builds and allocates them all based on that position and where they are along there. So you'll see these little cranes springing up from the ground and carving into the cliff sides and getting all of these buildings carved out of everything. It's really bonkers. It's amazing. Such a fun
It looks like a game that Peter Molyneux wished he would make. Do you know what I mean?
like honestly, I did have a think about that when I sat after our Peter Molyneux discussion. I was out capturing some more footage for it, and I was sat kind of playing, and Peter Molyneux was as fresh in my mind as he should be. Honestly, everyone should have a little Peter Molyneux moment at least once or twice a day. And the entire time playing it, I was like, man, Peter would fucking love this.
Yeah, exactly.
like Peter would look at this and go, "Oh man, I wish I could have made this." Yeah, we could use that as a marketing beat, maybe. But Bulwark is the game Peter Molyneux wishes he could have made. We're going to put that in the box.
Yeah. We're verified now. We can say what we want. So Polaris has got Bullet there playable. What else is happening in Polaris if you were part of that oddly small Venn diagram of, wide Unplugged
if you are in Hamburg and you are in Polaris, then not only will you be able to see Thomas and come and play Bullock, you'll be able to come and do the same with The Last Worker. You'll be able to come and do the same with Tiny Troopers Global Ops, which was recently given out to everyone as part of the IGN Plus subscription. We mentioned that last week, and at the last counting, I believe, I say last counting, it was like the day after it went out. I believe they had only something like just under 20% of the keys remaining out, like by the end of the first day. Like they'd all been like literally gobbled up. So well done everyone on getting on that. I hope you're enjoying your time with the beta. I believe that runs until it's either the end of this week or next week. But once that's done, keep a hold of your install. Don't remove it, and that will be turning into a full game for you upon release. It's our little treat.
That's so cool.
Our little treat. Me and us and IGN treating you right. Okay, so just don't sweat on that. But as well as Tiny Troopers, as well as Bulwark, there will be The Last Worker. There will also be Gory, Cuddly Carnage, which was a bit of a fan favorite over EGX and Gamescom. I know that there was a lot.
The Americans loved it at PAX East, by the way.
Yeah, I can imagine, dude. I can imagine. Yeah. It's you know what? I love all of our games. I genuinely do. It's one of the cool things about Wired as a company is, we all get a say on the games that we pick up. We look at what's been pitched. We look at what the company would be able to support. Because it isn't always about whether we like the games. It's about whether we'd be a good fit for the game as well,
Gary,
right?
Just give me 1 second.
Welcome back.
Hey, I'm really sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, I had a Royal Mail delivery, and I knew we needed to get.
Was it good? Anything in there?
It was like some what's it called? Like polyfill for like a little crack I've got in my wall actually, and it's going to start raining soon, so I needed to really do
you
that.
want that patched up. You don't want that damp getting inside the walls.
Anyway, I'm so sorry because you were just talking about you were verging on the sort of I don't have any favorite children, but
yeah. So, well, I don't. I honestly don't. But one of the cool things about Wired as a company is. We all kind of get a hand in which products we take on board, which projects we want to run with, and making sure that we are able to do the best for the game as well as vice versa. So I do absolutely adore all of our games, but there's just something so captivating about Gory at events specifically. Like it is such an eye-grabbing game from like the key art on the displays to like whatever's happening on the screen. Like every event that I've seen Gory at, people will be walking by on their way to whatever it is, whether they're going to go find a boba tea stand, whether they're on the way to find a corner to plug their phone in, whether they're looking for a merch, whether they're looking for another game. And like if they just so much as even cursory glance in Gory's direction, that's it. They're in. They don't have a choice. They just go, really? What the fuck is that? And just immediately go, no, hang on a minute. I need to. What? And then after like a minute or two, like, okay, I get it. I like it, and I don't know if I should, but I get it. And then it's always been a crowd pleaser at events. So if you have not already checked it out, please swing on by. Gory will be there. You will instantly fall in love with it. You'll fall in love with all of our games, but Gory's the gateway drug. Gory's the one that you look at and it just pulls you over to the stand, and then you see everything else while you're there. And of course, Tin Hearts is going to be there as well, rounding up the Gamescom winner of most anticipated Nintendo Switch award.
Very nice that you remember that off the top of your head. Very good. Well done.
I've done this once or twice.
But it's all popping off at Polaris. There's loads of stuff going on.
It is, and I'm excited. And you know what, though? The thing I'm excited for the most is what I don't know is going to be there, because I kind of feel like that's. And I don't know what your experience has been. You've been to a couple more of the conventions than I have this year, but the kind of general indie presence just seems to be going, like, as the big platform holders have kind of retreated more and more into their own dedicated online events, whether it be directs, whether it be state of plays, whether it be just Xbox going, that's Tuesday, let's announce a game. Just the way that they do. You know, those convention spaces have kind of started to fill up a lot more with the double A's and the indies and whatnot, and they're getting a lot more kind of presence in there.
Right.
And sometimes it's stuff that you've literally never heard of. Like, you'll literally just walk down a hall and be like, I've literally never seen this before. I've got no idea what you are. I'm going to look at you. Okay, you know what? That is 100% now immediately on my wish list, and I didn't even know you existed 2 minutes ago. And there's a lot more of that going on at these places, and I love that. I absolutely adore that.
Yeah, I love it, and I like that it like changes your mentality just being there, isn't it? And what I mean by that is, like, you're on a Steam store page, you're already feeling a bit lethargic. You're already like, oh, there's so many things. But like the idea that, I don't know, I think maybe when you just go to, like, if you're like just a punter at a convention, you kind of just thinking every game here is worthy of being here. So you've got a bit more of an open heart, and that means you're willing to try games, even games that you wouldn't necessarily look at normally. You'd be like, oh, I wouldn't normally try a game like that. If it was on Steam and it was one of the 600 games on the Steam front page every time,
it would probably get missed in a mouse scroll.
Yeah, but there's something there, isn't it, about it taking up that space that you go, do you know what? I'll sit down and I'll have a go. And that, you know, I think my most played game of this year by like ×5, you know, is a game that I was in the UK, which is like, it was a brand new sort of indie focused showcase. There was a game there that I ended up you know, sitting down with. I've put about 300 hours into it this year.
Wow.
And it's just some little game I would never have cared of. In fact, I had a lot of words that I was kind of, I'm a bit weary of. Early access, okay, they can be good, but also there's a lot of them. Sandbox sort of crafting survival game. There's a lot of them, isn't there?
Stop me if you've heard this one before.
Yeah, exactly. You know, inspired by Stardew Valley. I'm just like, yeah, aren't we all, mate? But you know. But damn, so you know, and I wouldn't have done that unless it took up some space in the real world at an event. And I just went, yeah. So you're right, and I wonder if it's a bit of that and a bit of that. You know, column A and column B. You know, people are a little bit more open minded because they they want to get their money's worth first of all. And do you know what the best thing about indies is as well? And it feels like such a lovely little, beautiful thing. It's the best thing about being a hipster, isn't it? There's not a 4-hour queue to play it like bloody Call of Duty. All of these amazing games, and often you have to queue up for like with one or two people. I remember being at Gamescom a couple of. In fact, do you know what it was? I was going through my phone to show my mate Gamescom, to show them how big it was, because they'd never heard of it. And so I was looking through my phone and I found a video of Gamescom 2019, and it was a 4-hour queue for something. And I was like, oh yeah. Do you know what the queue was for? It was for a 90-second trailer of Death Stranding. Yeah. Which was out of just a few weeks ago. And when you think about how many indie games you can play in those 4 hours, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Honestly, my favorite way of handling that, I think, was actually at an EGX that I'd seen many moons ago, where I think it was Cyberpunk. Yeah. I believe it was Cyberpunk. They had a giant Cyberpunk behind walls showing. Yeah. And there was a similar thing. I think it was only a trailer or like a 10-20 minute playthrough of the section. Right. It was
a 15-minute presentation that Holly Bennett presented.
Yeah, good old Holly. Yeah. And you actually didn't queue. You took a number. And you went back at a certain point, and I was like, that's such a good way of handling that thing.
Like buying a cinema ticket, right?
Yeah. Like, okay, cool, I'm number X. What time would that be? 2:30. Cool. I'm going to go chill and actually play stuff for a couple of hours, and I'll come back to see the big thing. Like that was a really neat way of handling that. I really hope people pick up and do more of that at conventions, because no one wants to go to these places to
pay money to
no
then
one
queue.
wants to exactly. Like don't make people, you know, spend their time, especially as a lot of people travel for this stuff, like it's not even just, I know anecdotally from my own part at EGX just came by. Yes, people came over to come see games, but it was, friends from online spaces that are in different countries are coming over to all meet centrally in one location to go do a thing, you don't want to be spending that time going, hey, remember that time where we went and stood in a queue for 4.5 hours to watch a 5-minute Death Stranding video? Wasn't that a great weekend? Like,
I know,
don't do that to people. Don't do that to people. That's weird.
It's a bit strange.
Anyway, finishing Polaris, there is also going to be a couple of streams over the course. There's going to be some news related to Bulwark and Gory coming out during Polaris. So we hope. I'm not going to break any NDAs today, Jake. I've skirted close enough to the sun that my wrists and the back of my knuckles are red raw from the slaps on the hand I've been receiving over the past couple of weeks. But there's going to be a couple of streams related to Polaris as well. There's going to be a couple of tasty little news bits coming out for our games there. So keep an eye on our socials, especially over the weekend. If you can't make it over to Hamburg, keep an eye on @YP and keep an eye on the Polaris socials to hopefully see some familiar faces. And also,
you're doing it. You're showing restraint.
I'm doing it again. But no,
I need a Will Gary break NDA. Like, will you?
Like a little meter in the middle, just like,
like some like music that's like the countdown music. Very well behaved. Very well done.
I like that. All right. Well, and that's going to be it for the propaganda. I'm going to keep it a little bit light this week on that end because I know that we have quite a lot to cover elsewhere.
We do. We're about halfway through the podcast and we're about to do the news, but I reckon I'm going to show you a trick. Do you want to see one? All right.
One simple trick. I'm here for it.
Doctors hate this jingle.
Yep.
News stole from Google.
Doctors hate that jingle because they're a bunch of squares, and that jingle is really cool. Nerds. Okay, so shouts out to the doctors and thank you for all your hard work, etc. Anyway, let's talk about the important stuff. So, news. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna tell you a bit of news to segue into a bit of news / discussion. All right, I'm gonna do two at once.
Okay, I'm here for it.
All right. The real-time strategy genre.
Oh my god.
The real-time strategy genre isn't really popping anymore. Okay, no. For the youth who maybe don't know what I'm on about, I always say this. Remember when I tried to describe floppy disks and got a really hard time about it? So the real-time strategy genre, I'm just going to be good, okay? Is a really prominent PC gaming genre back in the day.
It was basically the genre, to be honest. Like it was the type of game that was made. Like you had your combat ones where your command and conquers and the Age of Empires where you're building ones and your civilizations, which was kind of a mix of your two and your black and white. Like basically everything was isometric and everything was real time or turn based, and it was awesome. Yeah, and it really utilized the mouse and keyboard, unlike a lot of other games that were very like D-pad and controller heavy, right? So it's really hard to play an RTS on the console. But anyway, improvements have been made because like the genre's become a bit of a cult. Like it's very rare you get an RTS game anymore. But back in the day, they were king. And I have two favorites, and I'm gonna touch on one of them very lightly, and then the other one I'm gonna use as a bit of a segue into our second news story because that's how fast we're moving here. Okay. So I want to let you know that I was very pleased to wake up this morning to find out that Age of Mythology, which is my second favorite RTS ever, is being completely redone. Oh, yeah. See, this is news to me. I wasn't even aware of that. It's being completely reimagined. So, they did that with Age of Empires recently, didn't they? Where they did a big shiny version too. The monkey paw just curls, and it's being reimagined as a first-person shooter. It's a pachinko machine. No, it got a little sizzly trailer that didn't show absolutely anything. It looked like it was made by students. It was like it was like when Bethesda showed off the new Elder Scrolls, and it could have been anything. It could be anything. If it didn't say Age of Mythology at the end, you would have gone, "Oh right, that was a good trailer about
lightning bolts. But yeah, Age of Mythology Retold was announced, and it literally didn't say anything else other than like, gods will return, heroes will rise, legends will battle. So just want to let you know that was very exciting for me because I really enjoyed Age of Mythology. However, I also really enjoyed another real-time strategy game called The Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2. Yes, I actually think that is the best, one of the best games I've made. And it's really weird because it's a movie tie-in game, but it absolutely banged. And I actually played it, right? You're not going to like this bit, on Xbox 360. Ooh. Wow. Yes, and I used to play it like not competitively because I wasn't a competitive scene, but I used to play it online, and the games were really long. So I remember I used to get home from school, have a bit of tea. Me and my mate would do 2v2 on it, and it would be one game all night. You'd spend a whole night just fighting goblins and that against other people from like, I don't know, wherever. So Hamburg, Anyway, the thing about that is, now this isn't a topic, but it's kind of touching on something.
Hit me.
The rights to the Lord of the Rings and are so that it can't be resold, and it was in a time in a world before digital stores, so it only exists if you have the disc.
Right.
Do you know what I'm on about?
Yeah.
So it's Vaporware, one of the best games simply ever made that was a big hit, only exists as Vaporware now. So in an act of preservation, somebody's obviously uploaded it online, and it's shared loads on forums because you can't buy it. So if you can't buy it, is it illegal to download it? Well, that's a conversation.
I mean, that's an age-old question, really, isn't it? Like, once something turns into that kind of abandonware state where you physically can't get it anywhere anymore, is there anyone that can be victims in a piracy crime? Like what's
exactly?
It's a weird one.
Is it piracy if the ship that you are boarding is completely empty?
Is it even the same ship?
Exactly. So the game is freely available online, and a lot of games are freely available online, and that's fine. But or not. But the point is that really happens. But one thing that people might not consider. And here's the story. Here we go. I've gone all the way around.
I'm ready.
We are.
This has been a long trip to get here, but I'm ready for it.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Video games back in the day, and you'll know, there's a lot of very nice things, and the Wired Black Label collection, right? It's full of like goodies. It's the equivalent of like when you get a special edition Blu-ray and it comes with all the good stuff.
Yeah.
You have things that are like alien to some people, like flipping manuals. Postcards and things like that.
Jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, so in this act of preservation, a lot of the time games are ripped and uploaded online. But can you remember physical game manuals? Well, if you can, then you might be interested to know that every single PlayStation 2 game manual ever has now been scanned and uploaded in 4K by just some completely passionate fans. They've hunted down every available PlayStation 2 game ever to exist and scanned the manuals online in a digital archive in 4K.
That's...
No, it took me a while to get there, didn't it?
I don't know how to feel about that. Like, on the one hand, that's great. Like preservation is a wonderful thing, and it's a very altruistic thing. Like preservation of anything, be it games, be it culture, be it history, be it anything. Preservation is important at the end of the day. That's all that we leave behind, really, at some point, is well, that basically, when whatever takes us off this planet takes us off, whatever is preserved will be all that we leave for people. So preservation is just a great thing in general. But the thought of someone just finding every PS, like, you know what? I hope it brought them joy. I hope it brought them peace.
Do you want me to tell you a little bit more information about it so you can feel sorry for them?
Hit me.
All right. Well, how they did it was quite a horrible process, apparently. According to Kirkland, the preservationist, they had to pull the staples out of every single manual. And they
my
ran
nails are already aching just thinking about it. I mean, they've probably got tools, right?
Maybe. But they used an Epson DS870 sheet-fed scanner.
Oh, classic.
He said that as a die-hard perfectionist, using a document scanner is disappointing for quality, but necessity due to volume. Then previously this guy spent 7 months scanning the SNES manuals, and he only made it to the letter E out of all of the games, But with the current setup, this Epson setup, managed to scan, ready for this, 75,000 pages in the last year alone. So then using stuff like Adobe Acrobat Pro and Photoshop and everything. He then tidied up every single one of them and uploaded them all in 4K resolution, and spent about $40,000 of his own money to do this. I just found it really mad that somebody would do it. I don't want to even get into why, because I've got no idea, but it's pretty much a solo effort from just some fan that someone will probably care about at one point. If you want to download the entire article of manuals, it's like a 230 gig download, by the way. But you can't
That's smaller than I expected. That's
well, actually, right? He's compressed it on archive.org. He's compressed it, and compressed, it's only 17 gig.
Wow.
Yeah. So there we go. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that
Do you reckon he's got a favourite? Do you reckon he's got like a favourite manual?
Well, you probably would. You start like going a bit too into it at that point. You know, like when people like have favourite house plants that they talk to, whatever. Yeah. It'd be like that, right?
What's yours called? That one behind you?
You know, I've never named it. I think I might just call
it
Gary.
No, no, because if I die, don't let me die.
Back as his plant.
No, I meant.
All you leave is what's left behind.
Exactly.
So so Gary the plant. Now, do you know, like, I don't know, like, there's I can tell you some of the most famous ones that have been named. Yeah. Okay. Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Onimusha. And then Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts, Akami, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. All bangers, by the way.
Yeah. So solid list of games. Man, the PS2 had such a good library.
It really did, didn't it? It
really did.
There was over. By the way, just in case you wanted to know, okay, cool. Well, PlayStation 2, every game. How many games was there? Well, there's about 4,000 games that were released worldwide. Just in case anyone wanted to know. Which, believe it or not, seems like a small number.
It kind of does.
That's like how many games are uploaded to Steam every hour.
Yeah, I was about to say, like that's compared to now, where for better or for worse, in many cases for better, every man and his dog can get onto a digital platform and have a game uploaded in the space of an hour. That's bonkers, but also kind of cool.
I thought you'd like that. I don't know why.
I did.
And at the very least, dear viewer/listener, bit interesting, isn't it? Why would they do that? But whatever, shouts out to them. So and again, if you want to check it out, it's all freely available online. If you want to read the manual of a game that you probably don't own. All right. So I have another thing I wanted to ask you about. It's a bit of a ponderous point. And again, is it news? Is it good for SEO?
News is in the eye of the beholder, Jake.
All right. Well, I find this is a bit new, and I don't want to sound like an old man shouting at cloud moment here.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, mate. 90% of our conversations on this show have started with back in the day.
Well, I'm going to have to do it one more time, but I'm going to talk about Call of Duty, yeah? So,
all right.
I, being part of the Illuminati has its perks. Like, I don't have to buy games anymore, right? So Activision kindly sent me Call of Duty or whatever just for existing. Bless. Yeah, that's really nice, isn't it? So cool. I was like, well, raring to go. It was when I was
verified.
Well, that's exactly it. I was like, look at this tick, and I said I'll bring it up on the podcast. That's it. No, I didn't. But I'm going to anyway. So, on Friday I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That should be the end.
For years. What are you on about, mate?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very, very good. So, no, I got the reimagining or whatever of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, right, on Friday, and I thought that was the end of it. Yeah. So.
Oh no.
So that's it. Yeah. So that's it. I was looking forward to it. I was in my hotel room. When I get home, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll have a bath. Then I'll get out of the bath. I'll make myself a cup of tea. Then I'll have some me time and play Call of Duty.
Light some candles.
Exactly. Yeah, but you can't do that with Call of Duty because it'll make me too slow-minded unless the candles smell like Monster Energy drink or something. So I booted up COD. Yeah, I downloaded it. It was like, and it's a bit weird now because it's like when you click it, it's like modular. So it's like which Call of Duty module do you want to download? The campaign pack 1, the campaign pack 2, It's like Lego. So anyway, I just everything. Just fuck me up.
Yeah, give me the lot. I've got a hard drive space. Give me it.
So you know what? Yeah. So I started playing it. It was quite cinematic and lovely playing the campaign, and I thought, do you know what this is missing? The pain of a 17-year-old annoying kid that is getting absolutely flashbang to fuck by me. So I'm gonna get and play some multiplayer. So I go to put the multiplayer on. You know what I'm gonna say, don't you? Well, the game apparently. So here's a confusion for you at home, everybody. The game isn't even out until the 10th. Yeah, but you can buy it now, and if you buy it now,
You can
The
play
pre-order
campaign.
bonus is the entire game.
So what's your thoughts on that? Where do you stand on that?
Well, obviously confused. But like, I just don't know. Because like, I just find it odd because, I don't know, interesting. I think I find it interesting because the campaign normally in most games is like that's the main event, isn't it? And the multiplayer is the little side dish.
I think it's been kind of different though. I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to say that I'm typical of most game players, but I must admit, I don't think I've played a Call of Duty campaign since probably Black Ops 2, maybe even Modern Warfare 3 was probably the last time I sat down in earnest and went, okay, I'm gonna sit down and actually play through this game. Every other one has been me getting it and going, oh, cool, I got the new Call of Duty. My friends are online now, already playing multiplayer. The campaign doesn't take that long to do. I'll do it at another point. I'll just go jump onto multiplayer with them and we'll go. And then just fucking forgetting to do it because you get on the treadmill, right? Like you get on that ramp up of, well, gotta, bring back prestiging, please.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But, oh God, bring back prestiging. But I've got to go in. I've got to get my grind on. I've got to unlock my camos. I've got to get my blueprints. I've got to go for my challenges. I've got to get my calling cards. I've got to go. You get a dopamine hit, you're in, and then before you know it, the campaign's not really a thing. And that's not to say that they're not good. And I kind of feel in a way that this is almost why that's being done, in a weird way of like, yeah, it's them nodding at the players and being like, yeah, we know. Like we know that if we were to just drop this on the 10th, the majority of you would probably not touch the campaign, and y'all would be straight up on the multiplayer, and it would be untouched. So, and I kind of get
maybe
that.
you're right. I think, maybe it was just for me, was because so many of the marketing things from COD have always been pre-order now and get access to the closed beta, which I think they actually did do that.
But did you see what they also did with the campaign? Is that if you finish the campaign, you get a reward pack to use in multiplayer.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a certain...
Eat your vegetables and you can have it,
Yeah, right. Like,
and you can have dessert afterwards.
And by all accounts, apparently the pack does contain like a blueprint for a couple of guns that are going to be like way better than the base. Your typical kind of, this will make you overpowered for the first like 2 or 3 hours, and then you'll find something better, but it's worth having, I guess, type stuff. But regardless, I don't know. I mean, I'm in two minds because in a strange way, it's like the flip side of Overwatch 2, right? Mm-hmm. Which again, another ActiBliz kind of thing where they've put out the PvP component and they're like, yo, the story's coming soon.
Yeah,
maybe at some point. I don't know. Here's
Halo Infinite did that too, didn't it? I think, where it was like, oh, we'll add like battle royale mode.
It's quite interesting to see these shooters kind of pushing out in different ways and kind of going, yo, we know you're here for the PvP, we'll give you that up front. Or hey, we know you're here for the PvP, but that's coming out in a couple of weeks. Until then, please, for the love of God, our devs spent so much time making this campaign. Please play it,
By the way, I just want to say the campaign looks absolutely stunning.
Did you see? You played it. Those, I mean, by all accounts, from what I've understood, the stuff that kind of went viral, was it Amsterdam?
Amsterdam.
The Amsterdam recreation.
It's really nice. I'd never been to Amsterdam in my life.
No, me neither.
Recently.
But I feel like I have now. I
was going to say I've only recently gone, so Amsterdam's fresh in my mind. I went for TwitchCon, and yeah, it's good. Isn't it good? You know what it is? Yeah, Call of Duty is such an easy target for people to just go, you know what, it's bad. Oh, COD is bad, because there's so much rubbish with it. Like, there's a genuine spreadsheet on the website so you can understand what you're buying. Like, you have to buy, do you want to play it on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4? Buy the cross-gen bundle. Do you want to skip some progress? Do you want to actually skip 50 levels when you get the game? Well, you have to buy this bundle.
You want the pre-order bonus with the monster?
Exactly, if you drink 8 cans of Rockstar in the full moon. So it's so easy to do that, innit? Because it is ridiculous, and it is a parody of itself. But I loved to see it trending for the right reasons. And by the right reasons, I mean, for those that don't know what we're talking about, there's a particular level of the Call of Duty campaign which is set in Amsterdam. No big deal. There's levels set in blooming Baghdad and San Diego and London, England. But it's something about that European, city that isn't completely war-torn or whatever. Most of the time you see Europe in a video game, it's a World War II game, and it's normally post-bomb. So, like, Battlefield 5, for example. So, but people were just remarking on the attention to detail. And now that isn't actually, well, it shouldn't be a surprise when, if you ever like, look at any of like the IGN featurettes about any of the Call of Duties, because I always remember remarking about how ridiculously lavish the detail can be because of the lifestyle that the devs lead. And what I'm on about is that I remember one Call of Duty, somebody's whole job is to spend 3 odd years traveling the world and recording real guns and like literally making sure that every gun that you hear in Call of Duty is a real recording of that real gun. And then you watch, like, you know,
the equivalent of like the Forza and Gran Turismo games, when you see the making of those and you see people like just hanging microphones underneath cars to try and capture the like low rumble of particular car engine stroke types while they're shifting this, that, and the other. Like, people do that. People go for that attention to detail, and I'm gonna be. I find that level interesting in a number of ways, and I've not played through it myself. I've not played through the new campaign yet, but I find it interesting in a number of ways, because it wasn't just the visuals that a lot of people kind of copped on. It was that, and you know, we're kind of vaguely touching, I guess, on a side tangent subject. I'll try not to get too high in pedestal on or divert off, but you all know me well enough by now. You know, people love to say with these type of games that the reason that they're great is because, you know, they're just mindless action, you know what I mean? Keep the politics out of games, and that's such a bonkers thing, because games by definition are political in nature. There's no way that you can keep that out. But with shooters in general, it is very rare that you have any section in a shooter that is not direct combat, just by nature of the type of game it is. Like, your interaction with the world of a shooter 9 times out of 10 is down the crosshair of a gun. That is literally your one-to-one interaction with the world. Is you have something in your hand, it is used to kill, there's a crosshair on the screen, that is the one-to-one, which is fine. That is an understanding of the genre, that is what you go for. But isn't it strange just how much, whenever there is a straight-up non-combat anything in these type of games, how much more interested everyone all of a sudden gets? You know what I mean? Like isn't it weird how it's this walking through Amsterdam, and it's not like, oh my god, the gunplay in the Amsterdam section was so visceral and groundbreaking. It was, no, look at this representation of this like actual location, and look at the attention to detail, and look at like just how nice it is to exist in this space. In a fucking Call of Duty game of all things. You know what I mean? I find it really interesting for that for all the innovations, you know, for all of the mad real world gun sounds, for all of the attention to detail, and then you know, upside down the helicopter shooting, and all of them, you know, incredible tech, and then really tight scripted Michael Bayisms that get thrown into these things. You know, the thing that goes bonkers is the look at this walking through Amsterdam section, and I don't know, that just speaks to me in a really weird way about the kind of how what audiences are actually finding appealing about these kind of games, even in the AAA space at the moment, you know?
You know what? You that's a very, very good point. And that's the thing about COD, you know, it's normally the bar for a lot of these things. Graphics and design and you know, arguably not gameplay, because they just kind of redefining their own formula that works out well for
they
them.
Found the formula that works. Just keep it tight. 15
years ago, and they're just keeping it tight. Exactly. So you know, and they found it so well with Modern Warfare 1, Call of Duty 4 from 2007, that they're just redoing it. They're literally rebooting it, you know. Crazy to think, isn't it? So yeah, sorry to remind you how old Call of Duty 4 is. Anyway, so that's I thought that was an interesting story. The COD Amsterdam thing is big, like you say. Great point, well made. So I think we've got time for one more briefly, and let's talk about Resident Evil. You heard of this? It's kind of like Silent Hill. No, I'm joking.
Oh, God, we nearly made it again. Okay.
Call of Duty was one big game that was publicly available for those that bought it, I guess. But the other, so right after the Silent Hill transmission, which was like, you know, we recorded the day of the Silent Hill transmission ending, right? But the day after, Capcom did a bit of a Resident Evil special, and they showed off a bit of Resident Evil 4.
Do you reckon they did that on purpose? Do you reckon they like swap notes like kids in a class? Like Konami passed a note over to Capcom and were like, "Hey, we're doing a thing on this day," and Capcom were like, "Oh, okay, we were going to do a thing. We'll go the day after."
I just imagine Konami would have sent like a note saying "back the fuck off. We'll see
yeah,
you."
maybe.
Because I reckon it would have been a real pain in the arse for them to be like, "Damn, literally the other big one that's actually been doing stuff recently, Resident Evil, is doing it." So did you get a chance to watch the Resident Evil presentation? If not, I can give you.
I actually didn't. I caught some of the cliff notes. I was actually playing Scorn.
Were you?
I was playing Scorn, which is I feel it's a talk for another time because that game fascinates me in a lot of ways, and I could go off on a lot about specifically the trying to make sense and understanding of like alien type things in games and even the ending of that game. Very much fascinated about it. I could talk for a lot about that, but I feel like that's gonna have to be a conversation for another time.
I actually downloaded Scorn for my Steam Deck on my journey home, but I did the reasonable adult thing and fell asleep instead. But I'm gonna check Scorn out. So maybe we should say this for another day and talk about.
We'll say this for another time. But I came out basically of my Scorn session and basically caught a couple of the this was just announced. But do you want to go down the list and do you want to give me your blow by blow?
Okay, yeah. So there was a full presentation for Resident Evil very recently. It happened. Like I say, the day right after the Silent Hill presentation, which you'd think was a bit of an odd time to do it. Silent Hill's transmission showed off a lot of games, and it showed off Silent Hill 2, and then it showed off like a bunch of Silent Hill games and just sort of, I don't know, teasers. Whereas the Resident Evil one was very much the same, but a bit more, I don't know, close to today. Like there was a lot more dates and things like that. So the first thing that people saw was like the expansion or the DLC or whatever you want to call it. I like the word expansion a bit more, for Resident Evil 8. I forgot which number it was. And Village, I was just like, what number was that?
Was it a 7 or the 8? Because like you could make the logo
out
of
logo
both,
out of both.
Yeah.
In my head, I got confused then. Yeah. No, it is 8, isn't it? So yeah, they did that. So there's a the character kind of centers around one particular human, and it's their story. So you've got an extra bit of DLC coming.
And it's not first person.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Yes, exactly. And now everyone is wondering, is that a sign of things to come in the next canonical one, or is it simply just making the most of that really incredible engine that they've been using for the Resident Evil 2 remake and the Resident Evil 3 remake? And...
I kind of dig it. Mm-hmm. I kind of dig it. I dig the context of the DLC, although it does remind me a little bit of a similar one that they had for 4, for the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I wasn't a massive fan of. Not the remake itself, but the extra stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of dig it. Like honestly, I'm at this point, I like enough of the modern RE engine usage of the third-person Resident Evils in the remakes, and I like the first-person stuff that they've done with 7 and 8. I don't have a preference either or, as long as they keep making the games to the strengths of whatever perspective that they're choosing, go nuts. And if that means that you make a first person game and then drop a third person DLC, cool. Like I'm here for it. Like let's go.
Exactly. So I mean, the new DLC is available first person and third person, but for those who are just not 100% aware of what we're on about, the full original game, Resident Evil 8, is now going to be available also in third person, so you can play it first or third person, which is like great. Yeah, good. And it's cool that that's optional. And again, not to kind of go back too much, but just a side note about Call of Duty. Call of Duty just dropped that in. By the way, half of our game modes are third person. You can play team deathmatch in third person if you want. It's kind of quite interesting that people have just gone, hey, we can zoom the camera out. That's as simple as people thought it was. It takes a lot more work than doing that for anyone who doesn't know.
Well, when you look at, if you ever get the opportunity to look at how games are made, 9 times out of 10, the positioning of a camera in a first-person game things get real funky if you try and look at your character based on that. So just being able to switch between first and third is a massive. It's a lot tougher than a lot of people would expect.
Exactly. So there was they just dropped that whole third person mode, which will be like a free update for people who own the game. They showed off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. A bit of paid DLC for Resident Evil 8. RE-verse, don't really have anything to say on this, to be honest, because I do, but it'll just go on. And honestly, like it's RE-verse. Let's just see how it is. That's the multiplayer game that they're sort of touting. I guess more interestingly for people that are in it, because some people are in it. VR. Resident Evil 7 is kind of I think it's the standard at the moment for fully playable AAA VR games. I don't think there's many of a single player.
Am I of the understanding, though, that never came to PC, like the VR for 7?
Oh, I think...
Am I of the understanding? I seem to remember that it was console only. Like, I think it was PSVR exclusive.
It was PSVR exclusive for like a timed exclusive, but it is, I think, now available, unless
it was always available, but like in a weird hacky around way, you know what I mean? Where
like it was in the game's code, so modders did it and
people
stuff.
were able to like.
Well,
like,
then in that case, and you might be kind of disappointed or completely not surprised to hear that the big stuff for this was also kind of showcasing PSVR 2.
Yeah,
which is called PSVR 2, by the way.
Yeah.
But look, I played Resident Evil 7 in VR on PlayStation, and it's great, and I can't express how actually terrifying it is. I actually also, one of my favorite games ever in VR in general is the Resident Evil 4 VR. It is brilliant. You can actually throw your gun and catch it with your hand, and like you can duck. You can use your head movement. On Resident Evil 4, there's the chainsaw guy. Guy comes at you. You can duck under him, take your knife out your holster, stab him, shoot him. You run out of ammo. You can throw your gun at him. Get out of here. It's ace. You feel
Everyone's
like John Wick.
Everyone's out here playing Resident Evil, about to say, and you're sat here playing it like John Wick. I'm here for it.
I'm in the Matrix, baby. So, So, speaking of, I guess it ended with a bang, and I guess you could say it was, the direct comp would be when they showed off Silent Hill 2 Remake. They ended it by just saying, and look, by the way, early next year, we got Resident Evil 4 Remake, just in case you forgot. Here's a big fat look at it. And they showed just a nice little bit of uninterrupted gameplay. Not a big sizzle reel or anything like that. They were just like, here's the game that you know and love, and here's what it looks like. And then, of course, it is just exactly as you imagine it. Which, in a way, is an art form. Because it's like Silent Hill 2. It wasn't exactly how you imagined it. Or maybe it was, and everyone was like, not like this. And, the sentiment between the two of them has been very different. And I think...
It really has.
And I suppose a lot of it's just simply down to the fact that it's Capcom is doing the Capcom remake of a Capcom game. But so a lot of those questions that we were talking about last week about Bloober and a third party basically doing a spin on something. But there was so you got to see the classic scene of the sort of opening when you were in the village,
wandering into the village for the first time,
and then you got that, and then you've got all of the cheesy voice lines, like he set someone on fire and he's like, bill me for the repairs later, and you're just like, yes, mate. So anyway, so shouts out Leon, and
Resident Evil 4 is a really goofy game, dude. Like I really hope that there's a good amount of that kept in.
It looked like it. It looked like it.
When you actually think back to like the progression of the story of Resident Evil, and it's all the weird, goofy stuff in that game. Like it was kind of bonkers, and I don't know. I think that's part of what made it fun. In a weird way. It's one of the things that I really loved about Code Veronica X, or Code Veronica in its OG form, was that game had a really weirdly self-serious tone, but just layers of just really weird cheese slapped on there.
And I guess that's kind of similar to all of the Resident Evils. Really,
it is, but it felt really prominent in 4 because, I'm a big sucker for when a game is super cheesy, bonkers, but tries to play itself so straight.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And
I love it. Yeah.
there was something like so like the world of Resident Evil 4 when you looked at it, it was grimy, it was gritty, it was dire, everything was played so straight and horrifically. And then Leon's jumping out windows, going on like bingo and stuff like this, and it was like, oh my god, like y'all.
And you just,
crazy.
and they're just like, this is our world. You know, they take it really seriously.
I don't know. It looks good. It's like you say. I kind of had to go back and watch some OG Resident Evil 4 footage after seeing the remix. I watched it and went, doesn't really look any different to what I remember Resident Evil 4 looking like. And then I went back and actually watched footage and went, oh god, like God, it really does. So you know that's a testament to that. It's probably going to end up, even if it is just a 1-to-1 faithful recreation. Then you know what, cool. It'll be a nice shiny way to play that game.
Exactly. And
so
I just thought, you know, I'd end it on that because we've had a very, very whiplash whistle-stop tour of the news this week. There's been a lot there.
We have. It's been all over. And I think, bar one or two, we've done pretty well not to tangent. So I think we ourselves a pat on the back for that. Because
give it up for us.
We could go on forever about things. You know what? Let's have a little... Do you want to just spend 5 before we wrap? Well, like just before we bounce, because I'm going to be away, Jake, and then by the time you hear this, I'll already be in Germany. I'm going to be away for the remainder of the following week, and maybe Aaron will be back.
Maybe
by next time. Maybe
Aaron's recent Twitter post was him and an elephant.
It was.
He's exploring the world. You should, if you guys don't know, if you go on Wired Unplugged, and you can find the links to mine and Aaron's Twitter accounts. Look at Aaron's. He's doing way cooler stuff than me.
Yeah.
I think my last tweet was like me posting a picture of myself on a TV. His is like him with an elephant and that. So
just randomly on a Wednesday morning. Here's me. Here's my elephant.
But yeah, sorry, you're going to Germany.
Well, what are you playing at the moment outside of Call of Duty, and what are you excited to play coming up? In the verbiage of a particular Resident Evil merchant, well, what are you playing?
What are you playing? Well, you know, I'll tell you what I've recently acquired. I have ready on deck, literally in some cases, my Steam Deck, but in others, just metaphorically. I have the following games lined up. I have Plague Tale, the new one, whatever that is called. Requiem or something.
Requiem.
Aren't they always called Requiem?
Yeah, I feel like everything is
Plague
Requiem.
Tale Judgment Day or something. So yeah,
Plague Tale Unbound.
I've got the new rat game. I got Scorn. Yeah, I got Persona 5 because like I got quite far into it, but then dropped off it because it's about 700 hours long.
And then
there's a new version that's like 900 hours long called Royale. And so I'm like, I'm going to try again. So I've got that ready to go. And I've been playing this lovely little weird game called like Slime Rancher. Do you know that?
Slime Rancher, yes. The sequel came out recently, right?
Yeah, exactly. The second one's out, and it's on Game Pass. So I got it, and it looks really cute, and it is really cute. And you just literally ranch slimes. So that's actually
I haven't seen that yet, but my partner's been playing Slime Rancher, so I've been kind of occasionally walking past and going, "Why are you breeding slimes?" And she's like, "I don't want these."
Mind your business, Gary.
She throws them off cliffs, and I'm like, "Okay, this all seems very."
They need it. They need to be tamed. So okay, right. What have you been playing?
Well,
don't say Bulwark. Don't rub it in.
Obviously, finish that up, which was an interesting time. Definitely not a horror game. I'm going to put it out there. That is not. It has a very uncomfortable, very visceral imagery. Very gorgeous visceral imagery. But it is not a horror game. That game is missed with a penis.
Yeah, I saw the alien penis.
But very much enjoyed it. But honestly, I'm just waiting for Signalis, man. I saw the reviews come out for that yesterday, and I am all like, the Steam Next Fest came and went. And then, you know, my highlights from the Next Fest, outside of our own, obviously, were Stunfest and Gun Jam, which I'm all in on Gun Jam, man. I can't wait for Gun Jam. That demo delivered everything I was hoping for. But the previous Steam Festival, there had been a demo for Signalis, and I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And someone pointed it to me and went, "This looks like kind of your bag. You should look it up." And on the face of it, it looks like one of those deconstructed PS1 indie fan projects.
Yeah. Not much going on there, is there? On the outside.
And when I played it, it really reminded me of like old school, like early survival horror, but with some like little bit of fear effect going on in there too.
Great shout.
And so some really interesting, no questions answered over the course of the demo, but some really tempting narrative like hooks that were being dangled all over the place. And I was like, okay, this isn't just we made spooky jump scare and deconstructed the visuals. Like there might be a brain behind this game, and the reviews have come out and been really, really positive about it. So I'm very.
That's a really nice and a very classy answer, because you know, if someone said to me, "Oh, have you seen that new like survival horror game in space?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm also looking forward to the Callisto Protocol." Exactly. Which I am, but and you know what? Time is slipping through our fingers, and we are really, really close to we got Call of Duty season, which means that we've got all the other big games too, and I am gonna inevitably check out that God of War. I'm trying to not really think about it or talk about it.
I've got it on hand waiting for me when I get back. I'm kind of in a similar vein. I was like, you know what? Can't wait for the Halloween season. I'm going to play through Signalis, and I'm going to dive into God of War. And then it was like, nope, the game's coming out while you're in, well, Signalis anyway, is coming out while you're away. Yeah. So I'll be playing Mad Crunch catch up when I get back to get through those.
It's the right weather for it, isn't it? So
it is.
Nice one, Gary. Well, thank you very much for your service. You've been a fantastic co-pilot this last few weeks.
It's what I'm here for, and but whatever form the show appears in next week, folks. I hope you've enjoyed.
Gary will be here in plan form.
I'll be here in plan form, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But once again, everyone, please don't forget to send in your questions to the show. Yeah. Don't forget to engage with the socials. Now verified.
So
now
when we reply, it looks cooler.
Exactly, and you can, you know what, we might even follow back, and then you can go check it out. I've got a verified account following me. You got what? You got a tick following you? No, okay. A little bit of clout for you there. But send in your questions. Make sure you comment on all of the various locations that this show appears on YouTube, on socials. Send emails in. Yeah. And download the podcast, share it to your friends. Let us know the weirdest place that you're watching and listening, and let us know what you're looking forward to as well. Like we talk a lot of game on here, but we miss things too. Yeah. There's a lot that we dive into as a necessity because of work, and sometimes someone pointing out, "Hey, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this weird thing," might be an interesting gateway to us finding something we love or find an interesting discussion topic. So. Yeah, please do that.
Exactly, guys. Thank you very much. If you're interested, you can easily find us on Twitter. It's at Wired Unplugged or Wired P for Productions. Thank you very, very
Platypus.
Much. Exactly. Anyway. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us for episode 35, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Wired Unplugged.